right, all right. Welcome back to the Snap Count on Big Play Sports Network, presented by FanDuel. I'm your host, Trai Essex, and this is my quarterback and yours, Mr. Charlie Batch. Sir, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Fantastic, man. This is about as stress-free of a football weekend I've ever had. But before I get to that, make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube, Big Play Pittsburgh, as well as you can follow us on Instagram and X, Big Play Pittsburgh on Instagram and the Snap Count Show on X. And we're also on the big screen, Sportsnet Pittsburgh. I had the channels wrong, so I've corrected them. It's 11:58 on DirecTV and 6:59 on Xfinity Comcast. So make sure you tune up into us. We at 6 p.m. on Wednesdays. They will replay the show for the next 4 Wednesdays. So make sure you tune in. But CB, man, we didn't have a game. We had a bye, but it's still Victory Monday because I got to chill this whole weekend, brother. And it was my 20th reunion up at Northwestern. My fellow Wildcats had me come up.
Dang.
And as you can see, I got a chance to take some really cool photos. And look, man, don't be saying damn like I ain't that old, brother. It's only I did feel a little old walking through campus, man. It's not a big campus, but it took me a little bit longer to walk through campus as it did. But
let me ask you this, Trey. As you what we're seeing here, is this renderings or this is actual
no,
what the
these
facilities look
are
like?
the actual facilities at Northwestern. They have done a tremendous job. This is the temporary lakefront field that they have right there on Lake Michigan next to the new what we call SPAC is our huge gym facility where the locker rooms are and all the facilities are. But yes, that right there is my signature on the alumni board next to some of my good buddy Ashton Akins, who you know, he's from Detroit, went to Detroit Country Day. I think you met him a couple of times. And then my safety, Dominique Price, another view of the lakefront. We actually had a tailgate right there by the lake, which I thought was pretty cool. I got some electric bikes that rolled through campus, man. Like it was the good old days. And it was 80 degrees in Chicago. It was hotter up there than it was in my hometown or now down here in Atlanta. So this is the them coming out before the game. And I had a chance to talk to the O-line coach, Bill O'Boyle, had me talk to the big boys up front. And I gave them a few pieces of gold, I think, because we came out and we dominated that game. I'm not used to Northwestern winning by a lot of points, man. And we absolutely put the whooping on ULM Monroe, and we came away with the victory. So it was a good weekend for me.
Nice. And that campus looks a lot different from when I was up there. I think I was there probably around 2009, 2010, somewhere around there. I took the NFL entrepreneurship class up there at Kellogg. And
yeah.
I did that, and that's why I knew where the stadium was with Lake Michigan, man. It's a beautiful campus up there.
So you're part Wildcat, Charlie. I mean, we got so
many.
Consider
myself part of. You can consider myself part of the alumni group now. So
you're a part of the family. So you get a hug for that, man. It was a win for both of us this weekend. But it was good to get back home up to Evanston and see some of my teammates I haven't seen in 20, some classmates I hadn't seen in 20 plus years, and may never see them again. Who knows how this world works, But it was fun to get up there and have a stress-free win, and we had a bye this week, so we didn't have to worry too much about the Steelers. But my heart and blood pressure were happy because we didn't have any close games, man. We didn't have to wait until the fourth quarter because we had the bye week, and we went into it 3-1. Super excited about these Steelers moving forward, but let's get to these Steel City headlines because I think we got some quarter grades that we want to hand out to these position groups to see how they're doing thus far going into this fifth game. So these Steel City headlines are brought to you by Fairway Chevrolet GMC. Whether you're in the market for a truck that's heavy duty, built for work, or a real head turner, Fairway Chevrolet GMC has you covered. With clear upfront pricing, unmatched inventory, and a team that works to earn your business, Fairway Chevrolet GMC is the place to go. Trucks, SUVs, great pricing, no nonsense. That's the fair way. So, Charlie, I want to get into the state of the Steelers. We are 3-1 after 4 games. Early bye week. I think we've had a chance to rest up. We were pretty banged up coming into this bye week, especially in the secondary. And from all accounts, it sounds like some guys are getting healthy. I heard Alex Highsmith is happy with what they have as far as the pitch count and practice is concerned. JPJ said he plans to play. And is that it? Are those the only two that were really hurt, our main concerns?
Well, on the defensive side, you do have Calvin Austin on the offensive side.
Yeah, the shoulder. So, have you heard anything about Calvin?
No, it looks like he'll be out a couple weeks. So we're going to see who is step up in his absence. So we'll figure it out here soon.
Yeah, and any word on Jalen Ramsey?
He probably will miss this game, if I had to
Okay.
guess. Even though we know Tomlin's official press conference hasn't happened as we talk about this right now, but I would anticipate probably he would be out this game.
Okay, as we get into it, I want to start out with some grades. We are 4 games in. There's a lot to be made about the quarterback position coming into this year. We let Russell Wilson go. We let Justin Fields go. It was a long, drawn-out soap opera, but we finally got our quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. How would you say him and Arthur Smith have coexisted so far this season? And if you had to put a letter grade on how he's playing that position up to this point, what would you say?
Yeah, I would give him an A-. And I know, people, depending on which report you look at, they have him sometimes graded a little lower than that. But based off the way that he was playing and the throws that he made, watching him over the last 4 games, he has done that. And only one questionable one where he was just trying to make a play down the middle of the field in that Seahawks game where he threw that interception to Calvin Austin as he's running that go route in the middle of the field. Outside of that, Aaron has been playing lights out. I like exactly where he's at, and that's why the Steelers are what they in the position that they are in, because he is not going to lose the game.
And I think his biggest effect isn't in his numbers. I think what he's done from a leadership standpoint up to this point, he has to work with all new pieces. He's never thrown to these people before. There's been much to be made when he went to the New York Jets, how he had all his friends come with him, and Lazard and Randall Cobb and stuff. None of that here. All new guys he's throwing to, and all new pieces essentially on the O-line as well. And so I think his biggest impact has been his leadership, and they seem to really be responding to him on the offensive side of the ball.
They are, and all those guys are there. And I love how the bantering is going back and forth between him and Zach Frazier, the center, talking about, hey, he's making a call. Zach is trying to override him and readjust the call. But again, that's just part of understanding where each other is at, and ultimately trying to make the best call at the line of scrimmage to get into the right protection.
Well, I'm gonna take a look. I've been very intentional with how I wanted to look at the O-line this year. We knew the O-line was going to be a big reason why we would or would not have success up to this point. Young O-line, tackles playing their position for the first time this year, essentially. We had a left guard who hadn't practiced all preseason, and we had a center and a right guard who are just going into their second year after not being expected to play as rookies. So if I had to put a letter grade on the entire unit up to this point, and I don't necessarily think this is a bad one, I'm going to say C+, just with what they've done and relative to the rest of the league. I think this O-line is probably middle tier, and that's actually an improvement from where they started, I think, to start this season. They have improved week in and week out. I think this bye week is huge for them. I hope they got in a lot of work. It's a lot of film study, clean some stuff up. But if I had to put a letter grade on the O-line, and I've looked at other resources, PFF, not by any stretch of imagination, in my opinion, gospel when it comes to grading, but they are a statistical resource, right? They're a reference point, and they had them ranked 17th after having them ranked 28th to start the season. So that's improvement. Other, I guess, analysts are seeing the same thing that we're seeing, but obviously they got a long way to go.
Yeah, and I think when you look at, and let me ask you this: when you talk about a C+, what are you putting into that to give you the grades? Is it sacks, QB hits, run game? Give me something so as everybody listening to you, what that grade entails.
C+ would entail, we've given up 9 sacks, I believe, numerous other hits. So 9 sacks over 4 games isn't horrible, but there was a game where we gave up 0 sacks where I thought against Seattle, where I thought it was their worst performance of the year as a group, And so sacks don't always tell the numbers. Run game doesn't always tell the number, but the run game is poor. And as Coach Tomlin says, your resume is your resume. So the reason they don't have a B or an A and they have a C is because they started out probably with a D or F, and this is actually improvement. And so from the last game, when I saw what Kenneth Gainwell was able to do, what they were able to do interior-wise in the run game and really impose their will on the Vikings week 4, I thought they deserved a bump up from what maybe I would have had them at after the Patriots game, which it probably would have been like a D, if I'm being honest. And so it's improving. It's trending in the right direction. Still not a grade I think they would be happy with, but I think it's fair.
Okay.
Moving on over to the wide receivers. Spent a lot of money bringing in DK and a lot of resources that we trade over to Seattle. Much ado about a wide receiver number 2. Do we need one? Do we have it on the roster? What's going to happen with Roman Wilson? Where do you see them at as they stand today?
Yeah, I would give that group a B-. And the reason why is because, again, you talked about the number 2 receiver, DK. They started out slow, but yet he picking it up as as the game 3 and game 4 has went on. But we're talking about a 4-game package as we're grading these out. Ben Skoranek, really elevated that group when it comes to that. The one, Scotty Miller, and again, we need to see more of Roman Wilson. And this looks like it could potentially be the game with Calvin Austin being out. And that's why, I'm giving them that B- up until this point. But ultimately, they have to get better, because if you want to now put fear into those secondaries of your opponents, somebody has to step up continuously that way. And I think they took the step in the right direction in that Minnesota game. And I love where they're going, because ultimately those receivers are blocking, making sure now you're turning those runs from 4-yard gains into 10 plus yards. And that ultimately is a reflection of what happens at the receiver group. Because if you're not able to get those blocks, again, you're only going to have a 5 or 6 yard gain.
Yeah, I would agree. We talked at it not at nauseum, but we talked at length about how Ben Skoranek has helped that group out, seeing Pittman out there, giving them an attitude, running down, making those blocks on linebackers twice his size, but actually that's not true, because Ben is a pretty big boy himself, And so seeing what he's been able to do, seeing DK go off last game, seeing Calvin Austin still making splash plays when he has an opportunity to, I think that B- is pretty fair. Obviously want them to improve. We need to see Roman Wilson and Scotty continue to improve in the right direction and see if they can contribute. But let's keep it moving with the other group of pass catchers, and that's the tight ends. I know we had a lot to say about the fact that we kept 4 of them this year, and how would we use them knowing that we had all 4, with all 4 having a seemingly different skill set. How would you rank that group right now?
Yeah, I'm ranking those as a B-. And I say that only because I wanted to see more from Pat Freiermuth right now, and that's not happening. I don't know if he is in the doghouse. I don't know what's happening, because his number of snaps are going down. And again, when you talk about that Seattle game, where it's second pass play of the game, where Aaron is forced to roll right, he drops a dime to Freiermuth down the field. On a corner route, he drops that pass. And it seems like from that moment on, the snaps have now becoming less and less and less, and a reflection of what happened in that Minnesota game where Darnell Washington played more snaps than him. It could change. There's no question about it. But again, we are where we are, and the numbers are what they are. So if he picks that up and we're starting to see more from him, then that grade obviously will be higher than that B-.
Are you a little surprised with the lack of production from Jonnu Smith as well?
Not necessarily, because I think they're trying to move him around and they're just trying to figure out a way to get him going. But again, with the lack of production on first down, and you're not able to pick the third downs up, Arthur Smith is not able to get into a rhythm to now be able to be a little bit more that dynamic in his play calling. So that right there is more or less the reflection of the lack of success on third downs and not being able to have a new set of downs.
Well, I think they did a tremendous job in the other aspect of their job, and that's blocking last week, especially in the run game, with Washington playing 48 snaps and getting a big Spencer Anderson in some reps at tight end. But they were blocking for a group that struggled to start the season, and that's the running back group. We paid Jaylen Warren thinking that he was going to be the number 1 back. I still think that he can have a great season, but I think the surprise of that group, and 2 surprises, 1 good, 1 pass, it's the lack of involvement from Caleb Johnson and the production from Kenneth Gainwell, who I think a lot of folks thought he was going to come in and have a very niche role with us as far as the third round back, but he showed he can run in between the tackles just as well on first and second down, and he showcased that obviously versus Minnesota, putting up almost 100 yards and not just running the ball. They are, I think, they had 24 of the 76 catches, so that running back group has about roughly 32% of the receptions on this team. So if I were to put a grade on them, I think a solid B, trending towards a B+. I think Jaylen Warren comes back after being hurt last week and has a good game this week. But knowing that we have two backs now that are capable, I think this group has a chance to really go up. And obviously, it's a contingent on how the continued improvement with the big boys up front.
Yeah, and that if Caleb Johnson had more production there, that grade easily could be an A minus somewhere around there. But again, to your point, Jaylen Warren, he was, his receptions that he's having, that's part contributing to the passing game. And this is, you know how this is, Trey, when you're the veteran and you're getting older and they're trying to take a look at those young guys. It's almost like, yeah, he's our security blanket when we need him. We know he can go out there and get it done. That's the role that Kenneth Gainwell was doing because he started on special teams. And then it wasn't until Caleb Johnson did what he did in Seattle in the special teams game that demoted him and allowed him more of an opportunity to run the ball. This isn't something that Caleb is not. Kenneth isn't able to do. We know he can run the football. He did all of that throughout his course of his time. But now we're starting to see that. He rushed for 99 yards. He's probably kicking himself right now on his last carry that ultimately took him under 100 yards. But it's a nice 1-2 combination with Jaylen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell at this particular point. Johnson, let's see if they can ramp it up right now, get him out of his head about what happened a few weeks ago, and ultimately now being able to contribute moving forward.
Yeah, another guy. I think this bye week came at a crucial time from him. I think they're going to try, and I think our game plan, and we'll talk about this more towards the end of the show, with the Browns coming in town. It's Browns week. Whenever we have a division game, it's going to be a little bit more attention paid to detail. Guys are going to be intense. There's been a lot of trash talk. You just came from a show with the Browns fan base over in Big Play Pittsburgh, so I know they're hype to get after us, especially with their new quarterback. But before we get into the preview, we got to grade this other side of the ball, this defense, much maligned defense that showed some life this last game. So on the other side of this break, we'll assign some grades to them too as well.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Garage Beer. No bitterness, no frills, no IPA, just beer-flavored beer. Find local retailers who sell garage beer near you by visiting drinkgaragebeer.com.
All right, defensively, 4 games in. It's been a mixed bag, but I think this last game showed what the potential of this defense can be. Going into the season, we heard Coach Tomlin say this has historic defense capabilities. Hasn't quite looked like that so far, but it looks like it's going in the right direction. Let's start out with the secondary, Chuck. We brought in Jalen Ramsey. We brought in Darius Slay. We brought back Deshaun Elliott. How would you Juan Thorhill, obviously. We traded away Minkah Fitzpatrick, who has been a staple back there for a long time. It seems to have affected at least the secondary to start the year, but it looks like they're going in the right direction. How do you see them right now up to this point?
Yeah, again, they haven't really played with all of their pieces. They started out, the very first week, they had everybody together, and then you lose Deshaun Elliott, and then Joey Porter Jr. goes down. As you gain Deshaun back, then all of a sudden you lose Jalen Ramsey in that secondary. So again, there's a lot of moving pieces, and it forced them to use some type of secondary coverages that the packages that they haven't really been able to use or they haven't used throughout the course of this season thus far. With all that being said, I'm giving them a B-, and it could easily be a C+, but I'm giving them a B- because they are 3-1 at this particular point. Are they a finished group? Absolutely not. But again, now let's see what Joey Porter Jr. looks like as he now returns to that secondary minus Jalen Ramsey. So again, we're going to continue to pay attention to what's happening here.
Yeah, and in order for this secondary to be able to do their job effectively, they need high-level play from this highly paid defensive front. Invest a lot of money when you look across the board and the draft picks that we've done and the money that we've spent with TJ Watt. We incentivized Cam a little bit more to start the season. Spent a second-round draft pick 3 years ago on Keanu Benton, or a third-round draft pick on Keanu Benton, first-round draft pick in Derek Harmon, fourth-round draft pick at Alex Highsmith, third-round draft pick in Nick Herbig. And then we paid a lot of money to Patrick Queen to bring him over. And Peyton Wilson, what was he, a third-round draft pick out of NC State? So all that to be said, a lot of investments going into the front seven. And going to be honest, D-line did not live up to snuff to start this season. And I think they know it. The one thing that I think it's obvious Coach or Mr. Rooney made it abundantly clear that his goal was for us to stop the run. We have not done that yet. But if you had to put a letter grade on where they are and where you think they will go, what would you say?
Yeah, it started out for me incomplete because essentially that's defensive front that you entered into week one with. It was the same defense that you used last year. And that, image that we have in our mind of Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson running all over this defensive front was that same front. But then you enter into Derek Harmon. Comes in week 3, was supposed to play limited snaps, played more than what that number count looked like, and he's been disruptive.
Right.
And now you're starting to see where they were anticipating being if he was healthy when they started the season. So I think at this particular point, based off the number of yards that they gave up, I'm still going B minus, C plus. I'm right in that area. You're talking like a 79, 80, type of grade, only because they did not have Harmon in there. But when Harmon is in that lineup, that allows him to be disruptive. That allows somebody like a Keanu Benton to now be to make plays in the manner that he did against Minnesota.
Yeah, that's one thing they have been, and that is disruptive. They're getting to the quarterback. They are creating turnovers. So with the holes that we have shown you could tell that the guys just haven't had enough steps together. The linebacker play from Patrick Queen has probably from week 1 to week 4. I don't think there's been a player that's improved as much as he has, and the leadership role that he seems to be taking upon, mentoring Peyton Wilson along, helping Cole Holcomb come back from injury. I thought he's done a great job.
No, he has, and that's the part where your front 7. We're including linebackers, but of course when we're grading defensive line and then ultimately the linebacker group, again Alex Highsmith was in, then he was out, so you don't really have. There was a package that they were going to run with 3 linebackers on the field with Nick Herbig, Alex Highsmith, TJ Watt. That didn't necessarily happen because Alex Highsmith went out. But when I look at just this group that you're having, even adding a Cole Holcomb, who now is able to be a thumper as he's coming downhill, being able to make those plays, I think that group is starting to come together. And if you add Alex Highsmith to the equation, I think this group can ultimately, I think right now, as we talk, they were a B. And I say that because TJ got off to a slow start, but yet he picked it up with the sacks. He ultimately had an interception. Nick Herbig had an interception. So and then if you look at Peyton Wilson, the rundown that happened in that play. So that group has all played together, but again, they just haven't done it. It's, little pieces, they're leaking at certain spots. But I think I like the direction of where they are going when everybody is healthy.
Yeah, if you get them all on the same page, moving in the same place at the same time, I think they're going to be a very dangerous group to deal with moving forward. But like you said, young and still building chemistry, and I think we're going to be all right there. The third phase of the game, special teams. Obviously, we have the GOAT kicker, and Boz we trust. I don't think there's any issue there or any concern there whatsoever. He got his I don't know if he's had a blocked field goal in like the last 5 or 6 years, but fortunately that happened this last game. They were still able to rectify it. They were able to move Washington over to Freiermuth spot on the left end, and that got fixed up pretty quick. But no leaks on the field goal team. What about this return team? We have not made a lot of splash plays, and the return team, our coverage teams have been solid, but I feel like we need more out of our returns, both kickoff return and punt return.
Yeah, when they made the move to release Cordero Patterson, I'm thinking, okay, maybe they're seeing something in Caleb Johnson in this return game to maybe break a tackle and be able to spring for those few extra yards. That just hasn't happened up until this point. But so I give the return game just a C. They're doing exactly what the kickoff team is doing, allowing them to get to the 20-yard line, falling down, nothing more, nothing special about that. So they have to pick that up in the kickoff return game.
Yes. Well, that is the state of the Steelers. I think we both see some positive things moving forward. We both agree that this bye week came at a crucial time for us, and hopefully we'll see some growth on the other side of that. But even though we didn't play this weekend, Charlie, we still won. Because did you look at our division? Did you see what our division did or did not do this weekend?
This is the best possible situation that you can have happen during the bye week. You win and everybody else in your division loses. So essentially you move up a game or a game and a half, and essentially 2 games up on people in your division. That's something that you want to feel good about yourself, but I guarantee you, Mike Tomlin, he tamed everybody down. calm the emotions. Don't get too excited. Hey, relax. We still have a game to play.
All right, we'll get to the division and the rest of the league action after this break.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Lake Spur Marketing, connecting your brand to the right customers. Visit lakespurmarketing.com today.
As we mentioned before, Charlie, we didn't play, but we won this weekend because our division laid an egg as a whole. Ravens lost to the Houston 44-10. The Browns lost to Minnesota 21-17, and the Bengals lost to the Detroit Lions 37-24. And none of them looked particularly competitive in either of the games. And so, but let me start first. What is going on in Baltimore? What is going on with that defense? I know they're hurt. That's not an excuse in the NFL anymore. The 49ers are hurt too, and they're 4-1. And they're finding ways to win with backup players. This was an issue when all the players were healthy to start the season, and they were still giving up points. I read it in the news yesterday that they aren't going to make any changes to defensive coordinator. Coach Zach Orr, who used to play in Baltimore, is now the one that's heading up this defense. And obviously he's getting a lot of flack right now with how they're performing. What do you see is their main issue?
Yeah, I mean, you can't. The injuries are part of it, and this is why you have your backups, and these guys play a lot during the preseason to make sure, hey, if they're ever in this role, that they actually can go out there and produce. So you don't need to go out and look on the outside free agent market to bring some new guys in. That's the disturbing part that was happening. But before the injuries were occurring, they already were giving up a lot of yardage, and right now they're on pace to give up over 600 yards. 600 points for the season, which is unheard of when you talk about a Baltimore defense. So, to the point where they're not firing defensive coordinator at this particular point, that part is confusing. I wish I had a better answer as it relates to that, but that's the most shocking part to me, that these guys aren't even getting it done. I thought for sure that they were going to try to slow this game down, play really good defense, and just hand the ball off to Henry and allow Cooper Rush to make the throws that he needs to make. That just didn't happen, and they just got steamrolled from the beginning to end.
So they seem to always have like these brain farts a couple of times throughout the year. Not even talking about moving on from the defense, which is horrible, and they got some issues on that side of the ball. But even offensively, they seem to be really depending on Lamar Jackson too much. You bring in a Derrick Henry who had damn near a 2,000-yard season last year, and he's only averaging like 11 carries a game, if that. And so his production is obviously off. But they're not committed to running the ball, even when the game is close. And so I always wonder what it is with Baltimore, and they did it in the playoffs last year too, where they forget their identity for a second. They have amnesia, and they feel like that they have to do the fastest show on turf, the old Rams offense, and just forget about their quarterback or their running back in Derrick Henry.
Yeah, and a lot of that comes down to the point where you're seeing 8, 9 in the box based off the formations that the Ravens are running. Listen, I know offensive coordinator Todd Monken very well. He actually was my receivers coach at Eastern Michigan. So I've known him over 30 years. He loves to throw the football. But unfortunately, when you have these injuries that are occurring, guess what? You now, become one-dimensional, and every time you're handing the ball off to Henry, 1 yard gain minimum that you're getting, and is forcing Cooper Rush to be in those third and long situation, where that offense is not competitive in that particular point if you can get them in third and long situations throughout the entire game. So they have to do better, and we don't know what's going to happen at this particular point, but Cooper Rush is going to have to maybe use his legs a little bit to get them where they need to get to, because unfortunately this offense is everything Lamar Jackson, and if you don't fit that mobility, guess what? As a quarterback, this offense looks completely different.
Right. Moving over to Cincinnati, they have a quarterback problem. Joe Burrow's gone. Jake Browning, who's shown flashes as a quarterback in past years, does not seem to be getting the job done, and it looks like his confidence is shot. I actually feel sorry for the kid a little bit. Do you think the Bengals need to go ahead and make a splash, save their season, try to trade for a Jameis Winston or Kirk Cousins?
You can make the trade, but then again, what does the expedited learning curve look like for that quarterback if that's not the same verbiage that he once was in? So that's going to be the challenge by going out there trading for a quarterback. But because you're throwing him in there, he doesn't know the offense. And guess what? Now, you're strapped as it relates to what you can do. I don't see a move being made at that particular point, But if it is, it's an anticipation of what's coming down the line 3 or 4 weeks later if you do make that particular trade. So I think they stick with Jake in this case, hoping that he gets better because they have too many weapons on the offensive side to not get those guys the ball.
Yeah, Jamar Chase is on my fantasy team. He was tripping there to start the season. He got a couple of touchdowns towards the end that helped save me. So that's good. And I don't think it really matters who's that quarterback when you got that O-line that has not blocked for anybody. And that's why we're in this position as we say right now with Joe Burrow. And so there's an epidemic in general, not to go off on a tangent, but I had to get this out. There's been an epidemic of just bad O-line play all throughout the league. It is insane how some of these offensive lines have been performing up to this far. And so it's not just, I'm not just hard on Pittsburgh. It's all over. And that's another story for a different day. I think I know the reason behind it. We've talked about the lack of practice and how O-linemen are the one position where everybody needs to be on the same page in order to have success. And so all that goes into it, but that's not something you can fix mid-season.
No, not at all. Not at this particular stage, especially when those padded practices now all start to become shells.
Right.
And if you're all shells, there's not much you can do with the running game that way.
Mm-hmm. All right. Over in London, the Browns finally made the decision, and we kind of thought it would happen. Dylan Gabriel took over for Joe Flacco, a struggling Joe Flacco. I actually, after watching the game, I thought he handled himself pretty well. There was an obvious game plan not to take too many risks. I don't think a wide receiver got a ball thrown to him until like midway through the third quarter or midway through the second quarter. It was all tight ends, the Fannin and Njoku, and then running back dub off. So it was obvious they wanted to ease him into it, but I thought he handled it pretty well for the most part. Still came out of there with a loss, but I think maybe they see something in him. What about you?
Yeah, the way that game plan happened, they were giving him the safe throws, but that's what you want in a rookie quarterback making his first start. Do I see that getting better or expanding? Yeah, absolutely. But for him in that offensive side, now everything shifts because most of the time you're in the right formation. Your left tackle is the most important person. Now all of a sudden you go to a left-hand quarterback, your right tackle is the most important person. So these are things that ultimately are going to change. But now that he is the starter, and if he continues to be that way, not wishing injury on anybody, I see that offense getting better and them taking more chances down the field.
I was wondering how they felt when they see Baker Mayfield doing the things he's doing down in Tampa. I'm like, do they feel a little bad? I'm sure there is a little bit of buyer's remorse or seller's remorse, whatever you want to call it, with Baker being down there. But I thought, Dylan, all things considered, the Browns went into the fourth quarter with a lead. And when you have the type of defense that they have, and you have a rookie quarterback starting, you expect that defense to be able to shut down a team that has a backup quarterback, albeit an experienced one in Carson Wentz. But if you take a lead into the fourth quarter and you know that you're working with a deficit with a rookie quarterback and a rookie running back at that too, and just, the offense is going to be struggling, you expect your defense to be able to shut them down and come home with the victory if you take a lead into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, they have to figure out a way to close out that game. And going, like you mentioned, going into the fourth quarter with the lead. These are things that you have to finish. And that's where Miles Garrett made the comments after the game. Dylan did his job. We just didn't do ours. So at least they know they don't have to talk about the quarterback situation for another week because of the way that he played.
All right. More news around the league after this break. What the hell, Chuck, is going on with these running backs dropping the ball before they get over the end zone, man? It happened again. Last week, it happened in Indy with Adonai Mitchell, who actually had two plays that ended up pretty much determining the Colts' outcome versus the Rams when he took I think it was a 77-yarder to the house, let the ball go right before the end zone, touchback. Rams were able to capitalize. Also, he held on a Jonathan Taylor amazing run that went for a touchdown, also got called back. But the main thing I want to focus on is the drop ball over the end zone before you cross. It happened this week again in Arizona. Absolutely had an impact on the outcome of that game, amongst other things. Arizona completely dropped the ball in that game, but I don't want
literally
dropped the ball that game. Amari DiMercado, after a 71-yard run that would have essentially closed the game out. I think they would have been up like 28-7 had he had carried the ball into the end zone like he was supposed to. I know you don't have the exact answer, but is it as frustrating to you as it is to me seeing a play like that? Because it's obvious it's frustrating for everybody, but how does it keep on happening?
Yeah, these are plays when you're watching, you're like, well, how can he do it until you're in that situation? And it depends, as you're running and get to that point, you're thinking you're crossing the end zone line with your momentum, but yet as the ball is starting to be released, that's the call that they're going to make. And like you mentioned, that call, that touchdown ultimately determined the outcome of that game. And the thing that frustrates me, I know as a player, he's upset at himself, but I don't know if you caught the sideline, and he was emotional during that time, and the players are trying to console him. The coach came over and just punched him in the chest. Hard as I don't know what. Whoa.
Yeah. It's a grown ass man. You doing that?
That's
You
a
don't.
grown man.
Yeah.
You can turn around and that tells me he's a young player. But ultimately, man, when that coach is different, hey man, we're men. I made a mistake, and that's fine. But don't put your hands on me in that particular manner. We would have had words at that particular point. I understand you're frustrated. You can curse me out. I get it. Don't put your hands on me.
I hear you. Don't mess with Chuck, man. Don't mess with Chuck. He already know. He was already upset. He didn't need that extra thing. We don't know the context. We saw it. It looked a little bit more forceful than it needed to be. Like you said, it could have been a motivating thing. Maybe like, hey, you're good. You're going to go back in the game. Or maybe it was.
That looked like a wind-up to me, Trey. That looked like a wind-up to me. Wind up, and if we were there, you would have heard the pad. You would have heard that pad sound that happened. No, don't do that. No, don't do that.
Okay. I feel you. Don't put your hands on me. I'm a grown-ass man, too. We out here trying to do the same thing. But that was one of those mistakes that you just can't happen in a football game. You're an NFL player. You're a pro.
Think about it. But if it was flipped, right, and that coach and something happened and that player was mad, he can't put his hands on the coach.
Oh, I'm not justifying it.
You see what I'm saying? Like, that's why I say it's double-edged in that particular manner. Like, listen, man, he made a mistake. Okay, we lost the game. But again, you would go up 28-7. It still was 28-7, 21-7. Go out there and make stops. So you have the opportunity to make the stop. It didn't happen.
True.
Now, if that was the last play of the game, then we're talking about a different conversation here.
That's a good point. And they also had an opportunity for interception. You see that other crazy play where they intercepted the ball, dude fumbled it, teammate kicked it into the end zone, and they scored a touchdown. Right. That's about as bad luck as you could have in a game, and Arizona seems to be getting that a lot. But a couple of other notable games I wanted to get your opinion on. A lot of noise happened in Philly, as much noise for a 4-1 team as you could possibly have, but it's because that offense seems to be lacking something. And with the star power that they have between the running back, the wide receivers, and then their O-line, which is year in, year out, one of the top in the league. Now, Lane Johnson is hurt. There's always a correlation with the Eagles. When Lane Johnson is hurt, they never play well, but they're managing to win games. They lost this one against the Broncos. And once again, that offense looked subpar in that second half. I think they only had 48 yards of offense after they scored their 21st point. Should they be ringing the alarm a little bit in Philly?
You're ringing the alarm because, these things that started, they were brewing a couple weeks ago. And then you lose your game, and then guess what? Everything explodes because you can't go backwards. At least we won the game. No, you lost, and these issues are now going to be highlighted. And what happens is, especially for your receivers, both of your receivers are getting paid. They're getting top dollar at their position. And you know how the business of the NFL goes. Yes, you can win, and they can go out there and win the Super Bowl, whatever the case may be. But if you put pedestrian numbers up, guess what? The organization at some point is going to come to you saying, we need you to take a pay cut. Your numbers aren't what they are, and we can't pay you top dollar because you're not producing. Yes, we're winning, but you're not producing individually. People on the outside don't look at it from that perspective. That's why the frustration is happening in the receiver group in that room, because they know these conversations are happening internally. And if it continues, one of those two are getting cut or at least have to take a salary reduction.
Ooh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, it's too much money going on for you not to be reaping some of those fruits of that labor. And so, and ultimately it does fall on Jalen Hurts' shoulders. He is the Super Bowl winning quarterback of that team. And so he has to figure it out. And it's not all on him, but they are dealing with it with a 4-1 record. So there are worse things that could be happening in Philadelphia. But there's one more game I want to talk about. It's not necessarily for the game. Patriots Bill. Drake May, who I think is going to be one heck of a quarterback in this league, once again showed up in a big way and outdueled last year's MVP and Josh Allen. But what I want to get to, did you see or read about the petty king that Bill Belichick is? Because I guess he put a directive out there to his team that nobody from UNC can tweet or say anything on social media about the New England Patriots. He already banned them for their facilities, which I think is just, it hurts the kids, all for some petty beef that he has with his exit from the Patriots. But I guess shortly thereafter, the directive got lifted. And so UNC put something out nice about Drake May. But Bill Belichick is awfully petty to do some stuff like that, don't you think?
He is. And like you said, it hurts the players more than anything. Bill got his money.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're coming into the college ranks. These guys are trying to get to where he was at for that longevity into the NFL. And you're to prevent those guys from doing so. That's you have to set your ego to the side. I'm glad he lifted it. Drake May, you're going to ask him to come back for alumni events. You're wanting to be a part of it to help for recruiting. Don't do that.
Right.
Put your differences to the side. At least allow that for it to be able to happen, because you don't want Drake at that particular point that turn around and say, you know what, I'm cool. I'm not going back to UNC. But it's hard because he has relationships. He's going to want to be around his team, and the university has done him well. So you just hope that these things get smoothed over, because right now there's too much pettiness going on.
And he ain't even winning games, man. How you gonna be petty and lose? Like, get your butt whooped. It's like a double whammy. But
correct.
Nevertheless,
but sometimes when that happens, they know when those scouts come in, they all evaluate the rosters of colleges, and they give you a grade, and they can turn around and say they don't have enough talent on there. They can give them a D+, they can give them a C-, maybe as high as an A. The most SEC schools gets an A, like a Georgia and your Alabamas. But if those scouts start coming in and they're looking at the roster and they put the grades on him, now that sticks with him for an entire year, and that information is now shared with everyone else. So I think that's why Bill Belichick was trying to be a little bit more private as it relates to those grades, and not allowing at least one team to go in. But let's not forget, the information is shared with a lot of people.
Exactly. He's going to be all right. You need to stop being petty. But I wasn't petty when I took that bet you gave me last week. I was able to
let's talk about it
with the caveat. And so we'll get to our big play bets on the other side of this break. This week's big play bets are brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss this NFL season. New customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet $5, and if it wins, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. You can build parlays, bet player props, ride the live lines, whatever your style, FanDuel has you covered. The NFL season is here. The only question is, are you ready to play? Visit FanDuel.com/bigplay to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Disclaimer: must be 21 plus and present in Pennsylvania. First online real wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expires 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Restrictions apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Well, Charlie, I listen. I'm coachable. I listened to my quarterback, and my quarterback said that the Vikings would cover, that the Texans would cover, and the Lions would cover. Now, the caveat is that the spreads were a little different when you said it, but by the time game time came around, because I waited, those things fluctuate. We didn't find out till later on in the week that Lamar wasn't going to play. We didn't find out later in the week that Dylan Gabriel was going to be the starter. So the lines changed, and because I listened to my quarterback, I won. So
can't wait for that bottle of wine to be sent my way, buddy.
I got you coming. I'm going to be coming to in the pocket with gifts in hand. But the Steelers open as a 4.5-point favorite over the Browns. I'm not surprised. No, 5.5 point. It has since shifted since this morning. We are now a 5.5 point favorite to win this game. Almost a touchdown. What say you, Chuck? Do we cover that?
We cover this, and I say we do because I think Cleveland is going to score late to get to cut the lead. A little to make it a little bit closer than what it is.
We'll make it dramatic.
And here's why I say that the Steelers cover this week. That Browns had to go to London, travel. You play that game, you get back into Pittsburgh, or get back into Cleveland, and then you have to catch a bus to Cleveland, from Cleveland to Pittsburgh. I think that travel is going to weigh on this team, and they are going to be extremely exhausted, and they are going to come out sluggish. The Steelers are going to get on top of them, and I think the Browns pick it up in the second half. But I think it's a long way of saying the Steelers are going to cover this week.
The schedule makers really screwed the Browns with this one, having to go international and then come back and then play your biggest rival at their place after riding on the bus. Those bus rides weren't fun, Chuck.
Not at all.
You know, it's a short bus ride, but no excuses. Play like a champion. Rule number 76 on the Wedding Crashers: no excuses. Play like a champion. All right. But the biggest keys, we only have a little bit of time left, but the biggest keys to this game, obviously, in my opinion, are the line play. We got to see how this offensive line improves. They have one of the best defensive players in the world, and Miles Garrett. Pains me to say it every single time. We understand the debate, the career-long debate that's going to be between Miles Garrett and TJ Watt. We think we got the better pass rusher. They think they got one. You can't deny that they're both great. Miles Garrett has been having a hell of a year. This O-line, particularly Broderick Jones, they're going to be going at him. And so how he holds up, what we implement from a game plan standpoint, what Arthur Smith does with Darnell Washington, I expect to see Spencer Anderson some more this week, will go a long way to determine the outcome of this match.
No, I agree. This is going to be a great pass rush between Garrett and TJ. But I think ultimately, the pressure is going to be on Cleveland more than it is Pittsburgh, only because you're dealing with a left-handed quarterback. Guess what? Your right tackle is not used to covering that blind side. That's where TJ is going to be blitzing from, or at least working from that side. So I think I give the edge to him on that particular side.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun game. I'll be in town, Charlie. I am coming to tailgate and partake in this event that is the Cleveland Browns Pittsburgh Steelers. Always fun, no matter what. Each team has won their home game the last 7 games. So it's not like what it used to be. The gap between Pittsburgh and Cleveland has definitely gotten smaller from the times that we played, where they were a non-story most times. Yeah. And so now, I mean, they have a legit challenge. That defense is one of the best in the league. And, if anything, they want to get back on track by putting it to us in Pittsburgh at Acrisure Stadium.
Absolutely. And I think the only way that Cleveland stays in this game, if the Steelers, they turn the ball over and giving them short fields, that allows Cleveland to punch the ball. And that's the only way that Cleveland keeps this game close.
All right. Before we go to commercial, I'm going to let you know, you got one more parlay to pick on the other side of this break. You got the hot hand. I'm going to need to know what I need to put down, okay? We'll be right back. We'll be right back. All right, CB, you got to get the people what they want. Me being people. And like last week, you gave me one heck of a parlay that I was able to win a little something with. This week, you already said the first leg of the parlay, Pittsburgh covers 5.5 versus Cleveland. All right, got that one in there. Next one I want you to do, Eagles, Thursday Night Football are at the Giants. They are 7.5-point favorites. We just talked about that struggling offense. Giants have a rookie quarterback in Jackson Dart. Do you think the Eagles can put up some offensive points? Because they're going to need to if they're going to cover 7.5.
Yeah, they'll put up some points, but I'm believing right now that Jackson Dart is getting better. This is going to be his 3rd game starting. They are playing at home on a short week. That's where I give at least the advantage there. But I'm taking the Giants in the points, even though I think the Eagles will win the game.
Okay, Giants and the points. Got it. Next one, a doozy. Sunday Night Football. You've been big on Jared Goff and the way he's been playing. You know who hasn't been getting a lot of noise, who's been super quiet, which is crazy? It's probably the best quarterback of this generation. I have not heard a peep about Patrick Mahomes this year. They aren't talking about the Chiefs, and they're probably loving it right now. And so Sunday Night Football, they will have the spotlight. It's going to be hard to ignore him then as he goes against Jared Goff. The Chiefs are favored by 1.5. I'm actually surprised because the way the Lions have been playing, I thought they would have been favored. But it's at Kansas City. His Sunday night is versus Patrick Mahomes. What do you say?
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes on Sunday night playing at home. He's always tough when he's playing at home. So I think based off the way they started to where they are now, I just feel, they're going to get the groove going, but I still believe in this Lions team. A couple years ago, they went down into Kansas City. They beat them, shocked everybody else, everybody on that opening week on a Thursday night that they open up the season. I think the Lions, they gain that confidence. Jared Goff is going to continue to do what he's doing. and I think they actually go down and they cover, and they win big.
I like it. So y'all heard it here first. Chuck's parlay: Pittsburgh plus 5.5, Eagles cover the 7.5 versus the Giants, and the Lions go down to Kansas City, go down to Arrowhead, and take it to Patrick Mahomes and company and cover 1.5 points.
Hold on, you said you were cleared out one of the Giants Eagles. You said the Eagles cover, Giants cover.
My apologies. See, that's why you my quarterback, man. Thank you for putting me in the right spot, Chuck.
I want to make sure. Yep.
The Giants will cover. They're 7.5 point dogs, and they will cover. Right? Pittsburgh covers, Giants covers, Chiefs covers. All right.
Here we go.
Episode 11 in the books, Chuck. As always, it's great to see you, my man. See you again next week.
All right. I'll see you next week.
All right. Here we go.